Welcome to mini lecture 2 for module 3. In these very short 3 lectures, I'm going to be discussing the physical environment of the Americas, physiography, hydrography, and climate. And so as you take notes, please note what I'm talking about and where they are. In terms of the quiz, I'm not going to be giving you a map quiz, but I do want you to understand what each of these features or characteristics are and how they influence where people settle and the contemporary geography of the region. Alright, so if we look forward, physiography, remember, means the physical landscape of a region, that is, the mountains, the basins, etc. And so when we talk about physical environment of the Americas in terms of physiography, the main features that I want you to become familiar with are the North American Cordillera, the Canadian Shield, the Antillean Archipelago, the Isthmus of Panama, and then of course the Andean Chain. So those are the physiography features. Each of them is important in terms of how they shape where people live. Alright, so let's take a look at this, and I'm going to open up a different map here, and I want to just begin to point these features out. When you look first of all at North and South America as a whole, one of the first things you should note is this incredibly long continuity of mountains that runs along in North America, kind of the western half of the continent, down through this region, and then the Andes this way. So that's the kind of unifying feature. Well, let's dive into this a little more in detail. When we talk about the Canadian Shield, it is this relatively flat area to the south of the Hudson Bay that extends all the way across this area. Now the important thing about that Canadian Shield, especially as we go up here into the Ungava Plateau, is that this is some of the oldest rock exposed on the planet. So it's very, very old, very important in terms of its mineral wealth. It's also, though, means for very shallow soils, not the best environment in terms of agriculture. As we move westward then across North America, we come to again, this what we call the North American Cordillera, this long chain of mountains that starts all the way up in Alaska, snakes its way through Canada, across the western part of the United States, and in fact goes through Mexico and then terminates down on the Isthmus of Panama here. The North American Cordillera, though, is dominated, of course, by the Rockies. That's what we're familiar with. But in Mexico, we also have this connection with the Sierra Madre Occidental, that's west, Sierra Madre Oriental, that's east, and the Sierra Madre Sul down here in the south. Now, if we extend that further, then the next piece that I want you to understand is this right here. This is the Isthmus of Panama, or the Panamanian Isthmus. This tail of North America that connects just a little bit to South America. This area right here allows for land movement between the two continents, but it was always a barrier to shipping until, of course, the Panama Canal artificially divided this. Now, the other feature in the northern half of our region that we're interested in is this. This is the Antillean Archipelago. The Greater Antilles are the large islands to the north, Lesser Antilles to the south. What's important about this is that this represents the margin of the Caribbean plate, and along this there's considerable activity in terms of volcanism and earthquakes. That is also true on the other side of the plate. Here, along again the Panamanian Isthmus, many active volcanoes through Nicaragua, Honduras, into Costa Rica, and into Guatemala and Mexico. Now, if we move farther south, again we move into the Andean chain, this incredibly long, incredibly high mountain system that runs all the way down the west coast of South America. That is in contrast to the eastern side of the continent, where you have this Brazilian lowlands in here, that's the Amazon basin, and then the Brazilian highlands here, the Llanos here, and then the Pampas and Patagonia. And so if we think about North America, we have a mountain chain that's somewhat more towards the center. In South America, the mountain chain of physiography is to the extreme west, with the lowlands in the east. Okay, so that's physiographic background. Next slide we'll be talking about next lecture we'll be talking about hydrography.